Yeah, I can hear you now.
Right. That's beautiful. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our very first podcast, Omi O um, podcast, where we talk about all things that has to do with a Isheshe perspective on all things water. That is water rishas, um, water manifestations, all things. But here I am. My name is Ifa Bukami Oshuntola. Um, and I'm here with Yeyelua Ifatoyin. And we're going to talk about first, give you an introduction of who we are, our background, and what brought us to the water. What, how did we first find out that we were um, Omo, Omi?
Hmm.
Um, well, let's get started. How you doing, Yaya?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to be here and to start this podcast, and I think it's really going to be amazing.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, well, let's start off with our introductions and where. Before I go, I'm gonna let you go and you tell the audience, so how did you first find out, or what is your journey to becoming, um, you know, um,
Yeah. um, well, it's interesting because, it's everything kind of happened all at once that led me to learn about Ifa, learn
mhm,
about Orisha. Um, I started with Isheshe. Um, and yeah, it just all kind of happened at once. And it came, you know, at a time in my life where I had pretty much given up on organized religion and I had left Christianity sometime before and just, was kind of doing my own thing and just doing my own um, trial and error with different spiritual philosophies and things, but really not really feeling at home with any particular one. So, um, I grew up Christian, obviously, of course,
mhm,
um, going to Baptist church, but my family wasn't really religious. I mean, we went to church, like, it would be like we went to church on Christmas
mhm,
and Easter, and my mom would drop off me and my sister to Sunday school, but
mhm.
she wouldn't stay, and then she'd come and pick us up. So that was
Wow.
kind of my upgrowing with religion, although, my family comes from a Caribbean background, so they're very religious in their mindset in terms of like traditional values. But
Hmm.
in terms of like church going people, no, they weren't that.
Okay.
um, so yeah, it wasn't until I was in my mid 40s, early to mid 40s,
Okay.
um, when I learned about Isheshe. And I had always, previous to that, like since my 20s, always had like an interest in like the occult and like new age philosophy and like tarot reading and astrology and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, in my 20s, I kind of like learned a lot about astrology and I taught myself how to do tarot readings. Um, but I still identified as a Christian for lack of a better word, but was still very much into like a new age spirituality with Christianities.
Okay.
So, so a friend of mine had mentioned something about um, she had posted on Facebook of all places. She had mentioned something about did anyone know where she could get a Ifa reading, divination reading in the DC area where I live.
Okay.
I'm like, Ifa divination, that's a divination system I ain't heard of. What is that?
What you talking about?
I know how to do tarot cards. I know how to do, scry. I've heard like all these other more popular new age things. Like,
Hmm.
so I was intrigued. So I did my research. I'm like, where can I get an E5 divination reading in DC? Let me research this and find out. And so I found Owl, who
Mm-hmm.
was located in Virginia. And I was like, I'm really interested in learning what E5 divination is. And I just thought he was just gonna like, you know, refer me to some links or just give like a very brief understanding. But he was like, oh yeah, please come out and we can schedule you for a reading. We can talk. I'll explain it all to you. Yeah, it's we're open. He seemed like very inviting and open. I was like, okay, well, it can't hurt. He invited me to. I guess now I know that it was like a meeting with his Elay, so mentioned that other people were going to be there. So it wasn't like I was going to like a stranger's house by myself. Like he was having this like Elay meeting and I was welcome to come and learn and all that kind of stuff. So I said, okay, that sounds interesting. It might be all right. So I went
Okay.
and I had my very first IFA reading and I had no idea what to expect. Now, in hindsight, looking back, he should have did a lot of explaining before I had this reading. But
But there you go.
right. But he gave me a reading and the first reading that came out, the first Odu that came out for me was Iwete Ogbe.
Okay.
And that's a big Odu with Olokun. So everything he said, I mean, he was on point. He just read my life. And
Mm.
I was just like floored. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
That's like what?
What? Like, how do you know my life, sir? But in that reading, he told me that Olokun was my head orisha.
Hmm.
Um, so of course I'd never heard of a locum. There's a lot of other things he told me also in regards to other orishas that were also supporting me. But he did mention that I was meant to initiate to Ifa and I was meant to be a diviner and I was meant to I was a child of a locum.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um so that was a lot of information. It was very heavy.
Okay.
But now I needed to go research and figure out, well, who was a locum?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Like now you gotta be like, okay, because he's not telling you much. So
Right, right. But I won't go into like hours long story because there's a lot. But all that to say is that was like the beginning of my journey that just kind of like avalanched until today. Just a series of figuring out
mhm,
my destiny, getting these readings done, and connecting with other people
yes.
who understand who this Orisha is and this energy.
Yeah.
I did end up getting initiated to Olokun in Nigeria,
Hmm.
like 2 years later after having that reading. So that's, so yeah, so I've been initiated to Olokun for a little over 7 years now. So since 2016.
So you have a locum and you received Oshun, um,
Yes.
are initiated into E5.
Yes.
Um, you have, of course, you got Eshu,
I have
got
issue.
Ajay.
I have
Okay.
Aj. I got Aj when I got initiated to IFA. And yeah, so my first initiation was well, of course, I had my Ishepa, hand of Ifa first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I got initiated to Olokun 2016. And then 3 years later, I got initiated to Ifa.
Okay. Okay.
And with Ifa, I received my Aj. Um, but yeah, but I have my issue, I have my Ogun, I have Obaluwaye that came after my initiation as well.
Okay. Okay. Well, my journey was a little bit different than yours. Well, I'm here in Miami, Florida, and my background, I was into Christianity heavy. Up until I was 30. Um, That's when I was like battling back and forth, like I'm not supposed to be here. I'm trying to leave. But
Mhm.
in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, that's just the devil telling me don't go. And so I'm like battling back and forth. Do I go? Is it the devil, or is do I really need to leave? and,
Mhm.
and I think the catalyst, the real thing that happens when my father passed, and that's what actually held me to break away from the whole church and Christianity.
Mhm.
Um, and then I was by myself for a while. I was just floating for some years,
Mhm.
and I wasn't really looking to see if I could become a part of something else. I was just doing me for a while, learning about African American history and the different tribes that are in Africa, the continent of Africa. Then I met someone, a male, and I was like, "Well, I don't know anything," and they was like, "Well, what about Haitian Voodoo?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." So
Mhm.
I did my research. I was researching about it, and of course, I'm here in Miami, so
Mhm.
but I felt like it was a closed practice. I didn't know anybody. I was like, I don't know nobody who practiced this. For me to even get into it. Um, so I got my I met a friend. She is a Yemoja priestess.
Mhm.
She took me to go get a reading out in Lehigh Acres, Florida. And I went there. I got my first reading. Then um, she was with me the whole step of the way because they speak Spanish and I don't.
Right.
So I needed a translator at all times, which was uncomfortable for me because I was like, I need to know what he's saying. I
Right.
just the translators that thing is not really doing it for me. But um eventually I went back. There was like me and several others that were getting their warriors.
Mhm.
So she was like, "Yeah, it's time to get your warrior." I was like, "Okay, let's get the warriors." And I got the issue, which is I even forgot the name of the issue. Like when you're new and beginning, you forget to write a lot of things down, and you don't even know what you're writing down or what
Exactly.
you're looking for. So the name of my issue, I don't know. I don't.
Mhm.
The name of the issue, all I know is it's an old issue, and he ushers the spirits as
Mhm.
during their time they're walking. He ushers. That's all I remember. Okay,
Okay.
that's all I know now. And the old dude that came for me was damn it, what was it? It was Ogbedi. Okay, it was Ogbedi,
Okay.
and when they called for the Orishas, and they was like, "Who do you think it is?" They asked me who I thought it was, and I said a local. And
Wow.
knowing that I did my research on the Orishas and look at me and stuff like that prior, but I still didn't know what to expect during the reading. They don't really give you that guide
Mhm.
on the internet. Well, back then they didn't. And so when I mentioned the local, they was like, "Oh no, 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 let's try for a different region first."
Ah.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" So basically, to make a long story short, Yemoja came down,
Mhm.
uh, which I thought it was odd because I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it, but he also gave me a pataki. Um, but the pataki was of a local Minarishioco.
Hmm.
So I was
Interesting.
like, okay, whatever. And I just took what he did. But when I received my hand, I got one E king. That didn't sit right with me. I was very upset
Yeah.
to see that, I didn't get what I needed. So I went to searching for an Isheshe priest,
Mm-hmm.
and I found one. Um, I did it the way that people are saying not to do it, but I did it anyway. I did it online.
Right. Right.
Uh, all right, I did it.
Lessons learned. Lessons learned.
And I found a priest who spoke perfect English. Okay, he spoke English, and that's the Ely that me and you met at. And um, when he came in, he asked me to bring my hand of Ifa. I
Mm-hmm.
brought my hand, and because he was going to do a reading off of my hand of Ifa.
After your
and,
118.
and then he was like, I didn't know what he was, I did not know. I was that dumb. Well, I won't say dumb. I would say like I
Right.
not educated enough
Right.
to
Right.
know that he can't do a reading off of one. He can't.
Exactly.
And I bring it, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna use my E5," because he just looked at it. He was like, "This is all they gave you." I was like, "Yeah, this is it.
Yeah. Mm.
What I got." And he does a reading, um, and the Ebo was just for me to, feed my father's ancestors
Mm-hmm.
heavily throughout my life. My father's side has been supporting me big time.
Mm.
They always come up every reading. And so fast forward, I get another hand of Ifa. And
Okay.
that little dude came down Ogbeate. Ogbe
Ah,
Irete.
okay.
Which is funny because you got Irete Ogbe.
Right. Exactly.
um so I got that one, and then he told me my head Orisha was Oshun.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, they told me in Moja. I don't know what at this point. I don't even care at this point. I'm not even gonna lie. I did not want it to be Oshun because at that time everybody was talking
Was
about
those
Oshun.
shown? Yep. Yep.
And I'm just the person that I rather be different than everybody. I don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's talking about Oshun, like maybe I need to be different. I want to be different, but Oshun called me.
So let me just say, I don't want to interrupt you, but when you just said that, it reminded me. So when I went to get my first reading done, now at this time I didn't know anything about Orisha, but being from the Caribbean, I have heard of like Yamaya and Shango and Oshun. I think maybe those might have been the only three that I'd really known about, maybe even Obatala. But so when he asked me, or when, so, he told me he was going to tell me who my head Orisha was. And of course, I'd only known about those few of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the same thought. I was like, well, it could be Oshun, but probably not Oshun because Oshun, everybody's Oshun. Like I'm probably gonna be different. I bet you my Orisha is probably gonna be Yamaya. And then he told me Olokun. But you know what? The interesting irony is that even though I'm definitely belong to Olokun, but when I did my Itefa, my Ifa initiation, it was actually confirmed that my head is actually Oshun. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole conversation for another day.
Yeah,
But I think it's interesting how we have very similar reactions.
yeah. And even the Yemaya card, Yemaya priestess, she was like, she didn't even feel that I was, but
Mhm.
I didn't feel it either. I'm just saying, okay.
Mhm.
So, but what comes down, it's like you're not supposed to question anything,
Right.
but I'll get into that another day. And anyway, so I think a year after my hand I got initiated and into Ifa.
Mhm.
in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened in 20? Yeah, and then that was confirmed that Obatala is my head and Oshun also. And then I think 2 years later, I got initiated to Oshun in Nigeria. I just had my Odun in January for Oshun. And Oshun said that I need Obatala, so I'm definitely
Mm-hmm.
going to go get him. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I am also with a Boni, which I have a title of Yamakun Mosa, which also is connected to Alokun and
Right.
Alok. And basically, that is my journey of finding out that I'm a child of water.
Tell
And
tell the people what Iyamokun does. Like, what is the ashe of Iyamokun that's
oh
connected to Olokun?
my goodness, that I say is it's a seer.
Yep.
She sees things. Um, her job is to see, is to
Mm-hmm.
for for everybody, and I really don't know how it shows up for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else, I can only say how it shows up for me.
Yeah.
And ever since I got the title, I've been very much visionary and seer
Yep.
and being mounted uh,
Mm-hmm.
consistently, um, which did not happen prior to my title. So
Mm-hmm.
that is one thing that I can say, but I can't really speak in depth on it because of Bunny is like a secret society.
Right.
So that is, I think that's like really all I can say
Mm-hmm.
about that. But I did receive Yemoja. Yemoja came down also as my father's side Orisha.
Mm-hmm.
So me celebrating, worshiping Yemoja is a essential part of my destiny and also for my father's side.
Yeah.
Um,
Same for me with Oshun. I was told that Oshun is the Orisha of my mother's ancestral
you went
lineage.
out. You went out. Yeah, you were.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just saying that it's the same thing for me with Oshun. I was told that Oshun is the Orisha of my mother's ancestral lineage, maternal lineage. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, the more and more we are in this practice, the more and more things get um, revealed. And we all know now what a reading entails and what to
Right.
write down and what not, and what all comes with an initiation and what doesn't. And
Yeah.
so we'll all talk about, certain things during our podcast. But this one, we just wanted to introduce ourselves and let you know our background. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to write under the podcast. We'll try to answer them the best we can. Um,
And I think also like you have the title Iyamokun.
okay.
Um, I was given a title for my Ile of Yeyelua, which is also a title in Olokun. And that is that is given to a person who is positioned to be a strategic advisor and to the king or
Hmm.
to the chief. So it's someone who possesses a lot of wisdom, a lot of
That,
patience and understanding, a lot of you know connection to preside over the community. So I think both our titles give some insight into some of the qualities of a Olokun,
Hmm.
and what it's like to be a child of a Olokun. And maybe that's
Yeah,
something we can.
I have another title.
Oh, that's right. You also have Ialaje, right?
Yes, Lote
Exactly.
Yalaje for my
Yep.
day,
Yep.
which is Oyeku Sedin Temple of Divinity
Mm-hmm.
here in Miami, Florida. We are Isheshe practitioners, and Yeye Lua, she is in between Elise, that's to say. And
I'm a free agent right now.
she is a free agent. But you know, you can choose your own path. Let your Ori guide you. I say, uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
You
am.
know, the,
That's
the,
another
the,
one. I
the path isn't always going to be easy. And sometimes, there's going to be different upsets.
hmm
But the point is that Orisha still always got your back, and they're
oh,
going to
oh,
push you. Olokun especially will carry you with her current and push you to where
that's
you
it.
ought to be at the right time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, which reminds me, as we are segueing out, because we've got to do it in the beginning. Would you do us a closing prayer, Yeyua?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Um, we give homage and thanks to our Ori. We give homage and thanks to our ancestors, all who have led us and guided us here to this moment to be able to um, start this inaugural podcast. We give homage and thanks to Eshu, who
Ashe.
opens the way for success. May this podcast be heard by all those who are um, needing to learn about Isheshe, needing to learn about Olokun, needing to learn about just our experiences and how we can contribute um, to to the elevation of people's journeys. We also give homage and thanks to Olokun, who has brought us together in worship and in service of Olokun. We pray that Olokun will guide our steps, guide each episode, guide our words and our thoughts, and everything that we have on our hearts to contribute to increase the knowledge, the understanding, and the appreciation of all that is Olokun, Oshun, Yamanja, and all of the water orishas, so
Ashe.
that
Ashe.
um, the water, um, we understand that the water brings life, the water gives life, the water is our blessing,
Ashe.
and we pray that we can only be true and humble representatives of the Orisha as we continue with our podcast episodes. We give thanks that we were able to complete this episode, and we pray that it is in. Um, we pray that it is represented in honor
Mhm.
of our orishas and of our heads, and we ask for continued blessings to grow our audience,
Ashe.
and to increase, um, you know, real conversation within the community that can be helpful and beneficial to everyone.
Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe, ashe, oh.
Oh, well, we will be recording our next episode. We don't know yet, but this will conclude our very first one. And we hope to see you on the next one. And we hope that this gave you some type of insight of who we are and encourage you to follow us again.
And please like and subscribe to our podcast. We are now on Spotify and um, possibly potential on other platforms. But right now, please follow us on Spotify and please let us know if there are other topics that you want us to cover
Yes.
or other questions that you have that we can cover. We'd love to know your thoughts.
Ashe. Ashe. Okay. Well, tune in next time. Bye.
Ireo
Odabo.
Odabo.